Hello my darlings, I hope you're doing very well. I hope you are sitting comfortably, you are cozy and you have your snacks and your beverages at the ready. I myself have a very cozy blanket with me. I got this from TK Maxx. It's covered in corgis and Halloween type things. It is quite literally the most adorable blanket I have ever purchased in my whole entire life, and like this little guy right here, he's my favourite. It's like a little corgi ghost. It's so freaking cute. Anyway, in today's video, it's a very long overdue kind of catch-up video. I have been requested to do this a couple of times. Not too many people are interested in what's going on in my life because I know you're all here for tattoos and stuff, but here and there I have documented my health journey. I've vlogged a couple of times here and there because I haven't been full of good health as of the past 2 and a bit years, and things are just, it's not improving. Unfortunately for me, I'm not having a very live, laugh, love time lately. I try not to drag that into my videos. I try to be as happy, well, not happy, but as positive as I can, even though I cover mostly, you know, drama within the tattoos industry, or, you know, what's happening in the tattoo world or what have you. But yeah, I always try and not be super negative, even if I am covering negative stories. It's kind of hard, but I try. But my life isn't super happy, rosy, rainbows and sparkliness, as much as I try to make it that way. I'm very much a fake it till you make it kind of person. I always have been. That to me is just the best way of dealing with things. It's probably not a very healthy way of doing things because it then perceives to everybody else that you're doing okay when in actual fact you're not. So yeah, this video is basically going to be a very casual, chitty, chatty video. Please comment down below how you're doing. Tell me all the good and the bad things that are going on with your life if you feel comfortable. Vent it all down below. Let's be a support system for one another. I know I have a wonderful community of like subscribers and what have you. I'm very lucky when it comes to the people that like watch my videos and interact with my videos. It's very rare that I ever get a horrible comment. I'm so lucky, and even if it is like a negative comment, it's always more of a constructive criticism, so it's not even negative, let's be serious. But yeah, I'm incredibly lucky and everyone is just so super sweet and lovely. So yeah, if you are having a bad time or a good time, then voice it down below. So yes, anyway, let's get on to what's going on in my life. Hello my loves, I forgot to do my usual disclaimer at the beginning of this video, which is just to make you all aware that I'm aware that everything I'm about to talk about and I guess essentially complain about is very first world problems. I'm super aware of that. And I also want to just do a little trigger warning here as well. Throughout the video I'm talking about medical things and somewhat disordered eating. It does come up very lightly and in passing, but if someone talking about the fact that they can't eat much is triggering to you, then of course this video is probably not for you, and I completely understand. I think that's everything. Yes, okay, let's carry on with the video. So for a quick recap, if you watch these types of videos that I do sometimes, you'll know what's going on with me. Kind of. I basically have this disorder called RCPD. It has a long name. Not going to attempt to say it, even though I should be able to say it by now because I've had it my whole life. That is correct. I have had this disorder my whole life, and the gist of it is something incredibly simple, which is I cannot burp. I've never been able to burp. I don't know when I was a baby. I've got no one to ask. I've got no parents in my life. And like aunties and uncles, they don't remember, you know, like why would you remember it if your niece was burping as a baby? That's just not information you hold as a person, right? But yeah, for as long as I can remember, I've never ever been able to burp. It's been very prevalent throughout my life. I always thought I was a bit weird because I couldn't burp because my sister, okay, I remember being like 7 or 8 years old, and I remember my sister burping all the time, and I remember asking her when she was like 4 or 5 years old, like imagine asking like a 4 or 5-year-old, how do you burp? Like, how are you doing this? And my sister was just like, I don't know, I just do it. And I'm like, what the? I can't do it. Like, it just never come to me naturally. And obviously that doesn't sound too serious, like, okay, you can't burp, like whatever. You'd be surprised how much you need to burp to function as a human being, okay? If you think about all the air you take in throughout the day, I can't expel that. And again, doesn't sound that serious. Oh, I don't know if you've ever had trapped air or trapped gas in your stomach and when you need to like toot it out. That's my life every day. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's miserable. It's all day, every day. My other symptoms are I get this like gurgly noise, and it's basically just air in my throat traveling up and down because it can't come out. That's obviously uncomfortable and embarrassing. I sound like a frog all the time. Oh my god, that was gnarly. Also, when it gets super bad, which is most days now, it feels like I'm kind of like drowning in my own air because all this air is just stuck here and it's not moving. And the only way I can get things to start, moving down south. Yes, let's get this out the way. Okay, honey, I fart a lot. All right, I always get asked. Okay, so if you can't burp, you must fart a lot. Yes, I do. All right, but I don't want to sound like a pretty little girl that's like, oh no, my shit don't stink. My shit don't stink. I'm being so dead serious. When I toot, this is so much information that you should not know about someone that makes content. Okay, I'm so sorry. But when I toot, there's no smell to it. It's just pure air that comes out. Okay. Oh God, I'm so sorry. So yeah, the only way I can kind of relieve the symptoms is to lay down, because then it all sort of just passes through. A lot of people have asked me, have I ever tried something like Gas X, which is a medicine in America. We have equivalents in the UK. Doesn't even touch the sides. I have tried it, throughout the day, once a day, multiple times a day. It just does not work. There is just too much air in me for something like that to help me, unfortunately. And yeah, it's just a painful, miserable existence, and it obviously gets worse anytime I drink something, every time I talk, every time I laugh, anytime I eat, anytime I take in air. I just add on to it, and it builds and builds and builds over the day until it gets to around about the evening time, and I am, as you can imagine, not having the best time. And this obviously leads to me not living a great existence, because there's no such thing as a flare up. It's all day, every day. I wake up, I have about 2 hours of goodness before I start to accumulate some air, and then I get hungry, and then, if I've got work to do, I don't want to eat, because if I eat, then I start to suffer, and then I get the loud gurgly noises, so I can't eat before I film, because then all you're going to hear is this froggy noise. It's not pleasant. So then I have to go hungry, but then when you're hungry, your stomach makes air anyway, because it's like empty, and it's, when your stomach rumbles, that's basically air moving inside of you. So obviously that doesn't help me either. So I'm always at a loss. And it's it's a lot. I also get incredibly painful random hiccups. They're just like 1 or 2 in a row. It's like my diaphragm is having a spasm or something. I don't know, but they are so painful. I wouldn't wish them on anyone. And I have those like multiple times a day as well. What else? Oh, there's just so many things that happen because I can't burp. Okay, it's a lot. And again, like I've said, I've had this my whole life, but it got worse. Like, it became a chronic illness like 2.5 years ago. It was around about November time in 2022. And I was just like, what the hell, man? Instead of having the odd random bad day once a month where, I've gone out for food, I've been laughing, I've been talking, I've been walking around, that would normally be a bad day, but I'm just literally at home existing right now. And it's still happening. It's still terrible. And yeah, there are so many other things, but if you can't burp, you most probably have this condition. It's not a very well-known disorder. It's not like IBS. I feel like everybody knows what IBS is to some extent. But yeah, it's a lot. So if you can't burp and you have like IBS type symptoms, because it just continues all the way down my digestive tract, because obviously all the air is moving around, then I get the cramping, and it's a lot. But a lot of people with RCPD do get this diagnosed with IBS, and not many doctors know about it. You have to go to a specialist, and that's why I'm making this video. So I have had the treatment for this, which is basically Botox injected into my throat. So the reason why I can't burp is the muscle that allows you to burp, for me, does not work. It's just like, nah, honey, nah. We're not, you want me to let you burp? No, not today or ever. But Botox helps the muscle do what it's meant to do. And the aim of the game is to have Botox injected into this muscle to kind of awaken the muscle to then train it to work the way it should work. The Botox is basically a crutch, or, you know, like training wheels on a bike. It's kind of like that. And again, like I was saying, this disorder isn't very well known, so you have to go private for it. There is only like 2 or 3 specialists in the UK that deal with this condition. It was only given a name in 2019, so it's a pretty newly discovered disorder. Obviously, people have had this forever and ever and ever, but no one's ever known what is happening, and that's why people get misdiagnosed with IBS. I also get out of breath. I'm not unfit, I just get loads of air trapped here, and I feel like I'm suffocating. So yeah, you have to go private for this. Obviously, with going private, that is very expensive. So I had 50 units of Botox in March of 2023. That did not work. I had a couple of micro burps, which are basically just involuntary tiny little air puffs that come out. But other than that, I couldn't really burp. And then in July of 2023, I had 100 units of Botox injected into my throat, and that worked a lot better. Like, the higher dose was much more sufficient. And again, if you follow my journey, I was kind of like, oh my God, like it's finally working, I can burp. And that was the case. But this is where my fake it till I make it comes into play, unfortunately. Because yes, I could burp, I could make the noise of a burp, but most of the time air was not coming out. It's very strange. It's doing it again because I had Botox not too long ago. I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm almost able to burp properly, but not completely. And I know it's a successful burp if I can taste it. 75% of the time when I was burping, the second time, I couldn't taste anything. So it seemed like I was doing okay to everyone else, but inside I was still like not doing so great. But I was just so happy that I was making progress. I was kind of like, oh yeah, I can burp. But it wasn't as successful as I was letting it want to be, which obviously isn't helpful. But it did make me feel a little bit better. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to take it, which isn't good because this is my health. I shouldn't just, accept half-assed-ness, which is like my favorite word. So yeah, most days if I went out and was walking around and was meeting people, talking to people, by the time I was on the way home, I was done. I was out of it. I was miserable. But again, I was trying to be okay and happy for everyone else because I hate disappointing people and I hate letting people down. So I push and push and push myself, which isn't good because I end up suffering so much. So there was this there was this one time, the person that I met doesn't know this. I don't know if they'll watch this video, but I basically made a new friend named Holly. It was around about the time I was making this video about the lady that faked how she got her face tattooed. And this lady, she's wonderful, she reached out to me and said, I think this Taylor person that's, saying that she was assaulted and had her face tattooed against her will is lying. And then we ended up doing this deep dive and we ended up becoming really, really good friends. We ended up meeting up. The first time I met up with her, I was pretty much struggling the whole time, but I didn't want to let on because I was just like, I'm just meeting this new person. I don't want to let her down or be miserable around her. So I faked it, being okay. And I was burping so much, but nothing was actually coming out. It sounds like I'm burping, but there's no air coming out. And then we met up just before I went to Canada, and the majority of the time, again, I was not feeling great. I was just feeling like I was suffocating. By the time I got on the train, I was in so much pain, and the train was so busy. All I wanted to do was just lay down, and I couldn't. It was too busy for me to just lay down. And by the time I got home, and Tom had to pick me up from the train station because I could barely move, I could barely function, I lay back in the back of his car and I was just crying my eyes out because it's just horrible. I just want to be able to function like a normal human being. Who the hell ends up drowning in their own air after just going out for a meal in London, barely walking about either? And I couldn't get this air out, even though I was like, oh yeah, I can burp now, everything's fine. No. And then obviously I went to Canada. I obviously had the bestest time. But again, on the flight to Canada, I was this close to laying on the freaking aisle because I was suffering that bad. And then luckily I just downed the biggest sip I most possibly can of Coke. And then that brought up some air. But it was one of these, it was a horrific burp. It basically emptied the whole of my stomach. I didn't throw up, but like all of this air just fell out, luckily, to the point where when it ended, I nearly gagged. So it was more of what people with RCPD call an air vomit. I'm emetophobic, so I can't make myself do this, like anything to do with nearly throwing up. Oh, no thank you. But yeah, most people with RCPD will make themselves gag, and then that will bring up air. So that's basically what pretty much happened in the plane, but I didn't gag. It was just this stream of air that was coming out. This like burp lasted like 10 seconds. It was just like, bleh, like I had my mouth closed, luckily. So, and yeah, throughout the whole of my trip in Canada, I was scared to eat too much. I'm pretty sure I went to Canada and then lost like 4 pounds. Like, who goes to Canada where there's so much good food and loses weight? Obviously, I still ate, but not as much as I wanted to. I couldn't fully enjoy myself. But again, you know, I made this whole vlog of when I got tattooed in Canada. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm having the best time. I was still having a great time, but I was just full of anxiety. I was scared that I was going to have like the RCPD symptoms and stuff. And yeah, it kind of just put a little bit of a downer on my trip a little bit. And also I went to Disney as well in December. Again, I tried my goddamn best to get through that trip. You know, again, I had fun. It's not like I didn't have fun, but it wasn't all shiny rainbows, sparkliness. Again, by the end of the day, I was not feeling great, but I didn't want to let Yasmin down, who's my best friend, who I went on the trip with to Disney. I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to put a downer on it. I didn't want to be like, oh, you know, I want to lay down all the time. It's not fair. So yeah, so the 100 units of Botox, it did something, but not enough, basically. Okay. By the time I'd come home from Canada, about a week or so afterwards, my ability to do whatever I was doing, this half-assed burp thing, it just completely gone. Like, my throat was just, I'm over it. I'm not doing this anymore. And I couldn't get anything out at all. Whether it was the noise of a burp or an actual burp, nothing. No air was coming out, so I was back to square one. So I had another throat Botox appointment in May. And again, 100 units. This time, it's barely done anything. I can still do like this burpy noise. So basically for me to burp, I have to kind of sit up straight and then turn my head to the left and like push with my throat. You shouldn't really have to force a burp out. That's the aim of the game. It should just come naturally, but it's just not happening. So I have to really force one out. Sometimes there's some taste and air to it. Sometimes, to be honest, it's 25% of the time it's successful. 75% of the time when I burp, there's nothing to it. It's not helping me. So I guess it's another failed attempt, I would say. So again, I'm ending most days feeling not so great. I'm trying not to eat, you know, when I'm like, again, today I haven't eaten a thing. So a couple of nights ago, Tom come home with some cake from his work, because he works in a pub, and there was some leftover cake, and he was like, oh hey, I got some cake. So I ate this cake. I'd already had my meal of the day, okay, but I was like, oh screw it, I'll be going to bed soon, so whatever, I'm just gonna eat some cake before I go to bed, right? So I ate this cake, I was drinking, and then just all hell broke loose. I was just absolutely miserable. I could not get a burp out, no matter how much I tried, no matter how much fizzy stuff I drank to try and get this burp out. It was stuck. It was not coming out, and I was in so much pain. I was so frustrated. So I emailed the assistant of the lady who does my throat Botox, and I said, hey, like, I want to book in another appointment because this one really isn't working that well. Is there any chance I can have a higher dose? Throat Botox lady's assistant come back and was like, yeah, no, we can't do a higher dose. Lucy, who's the person that does my throat Botox, will never do higher than 100 units. And as this would be your 4th appointment, it's not working the way it should be working. You know, like, there's no point, basically. And I knew that this day was probably going to end up coming anyway, but to hear it, it's like a failed relationship. You know, when you're in a relationship and you know it's probably going to end soon, but then that person tells you that it's ending, it doesn't hurt any less. Even though you're kind of aware that it's going to come, it was like that. And when I got that email, I was like just laying in bed. I'd just woken up and I just read it. I had fake tan all over me, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And I read it and I felt my heart just like shatter. And I was just like, I got in the shower, washed off all my like fake tan, the residue. I just knew I was about to have like a breakdown. I was just like, I cannot have this breakdown with all this fake tan on me, because I'd end up with streaks. So I was just like, right, let me just wash this all off, get dressed. And I went downstairs and I told Tom, and then I just breakdown, because there's only so much treatment for this condition that one person can go through, there's only so many options, you know? I've just exhausted one of them, basically. There's two others. There's two other ways to treat this. So I've not completely exhausted everything, but we're getting close to the end, if that makes sense. Like, we're 1/3 of the way through. So my Botox lady's assistant gave me an email address to this other doctor that treats it. I have been avoiding this doctor, not because he's bad or anything, but because of the way he does things. So you basically have throat Botox again, injected into the muscle that doesn't work, but you have to be put under. I don't ever want to be put under in my whole entire life. It's one of those things that I've wanted to avoid forever. Like, I've been the person that loves the whole like idea of like plastic surgery. I've always been like, oh, I should get a boob job, but you have to be put under for that, right? No, thank you. You know? So yeah, you have to be put to sleep. The procedure only takes, I think, anywhere between half an hour and an hour. So you're not under for too long, but I don't care. I don't care if I'm put to sleep for a second. I don't want to do it. Thank you very much. Like, it's terrifying to me. I hate being out of control of my body. So being drugged to sleep, Jesus Christ, the anxiety is insane. Like, just thinking about it, I know I'll get a lot of people trying to reassure me and stuff, but it's a mental thing for me. It's a lot for me. But yeah, he puts you to sleep and then he goes into your throat and injects the Botox in there. It's a bit more precise than having it in office, which I have been doing, which is injected through your neck, if that makes sense, instead of in your throat. And this doctor, because you're asleep, can do a much higher dose, which is what I probably need. Fingers crossed anyway. And the other reason why I've been putting this off, because this is all private, I've already spent over, I think I've spent close to like $2,000 already on all of this throat Botox crap, you know? It's not working properly. And this dude, because you go to sleep and you're in a private hospital, it's expensive. I don't have health insurance either because I live in the UK, if that makes sense, so I've never really needed it. You know, I have like the NHS, but this is not offered on the NHS. So I emailed this doctor and then his assistant got back to me yesterday evening. I haven't replied yet because now it's the weekend. I'm filming this on a Saturday, so there's no point in me really replying because it might get lost in the abyss. So I'm going to reply on Monday. But to have a telephone consultation with this guy is £300. I'm just like, oh, it's making me sweat a bit, you know? And I know the procedure is going to be around about 3 to 5k. It depends which hospital you go to, how long you're in the hospital and how much Botox they use. And there's a lot of, you know, deciding factors, which I will figure out eventually when I've done the consultation and everything. And again, there's a chance that this won't work. That's a lot of money to just piss away. But then again, there's a chance that it would work. It's one of those things, it's just like, do I take the risk? But then I'm at the point now where I'm like, I physically cannot keep living like this. Like, it's ruining my life. I don't have much of a life at all, like legit. I joke about how the fact that I don't ever go outside. I don't. You know, I go out, I get my nails done every 3, 4, 5 weeks, depending on when Abby, my nail lady, can fit me in to do my phalanges. And that's about it. Like, dead ass. I'll go food shopping maybe. Every now and then me and Tom might venture out for an hour or so. That's about it. I mean, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I used to see my best friend and we used to go out all the freaking time. We'd go shopping, we'd have days out. It's not because we hate each other. A few people have been like, are you still friends with Yasmin? Yes, we're very much still friends, but like, I'm useless. I'm literally useless. I cannot do much of anything. I can hang out, I can lay on a sofa. That's fine. But how boring is that? Like, I mean, well, not for me. I love doing it. Luckily, I am quite a homebody anyway. But still, you know, every you know, once or twice a week, I'd like to go out. That would be nice, you know, and have some fun. You know, I don't have any like actual responsibilities as such. You know, I don't have children basically. Like, I'm free to go out and do whatever I want whenever I want. And I can't. It's just impossible because there's another thing. Oh God, another thing. There's another thing that's really freaking holding me back as well now. I come close to fainting all the time. So I'm in a catch-22 situation. It's either I eat and suffer with my stomach, which is miserable, it's painful, please let me just lay down. If I don't eat, I then feel like I'm gonna faint and pass out. What would you do? Like, how would you live like this? Like, it's awful. So this whole like feeling like I'm gonna faint started to happen in 2023, and the first time it happened, I just got my nails done and I was walking and I started to feel really fucking weird. So I sat down And then all of a sudden I had this like black tunnel vision. I was shaking, I was sweating, I couldn't hear anything, I couldn't really see anything. And I didn't fully pass out, luckily. But I just sat like, oh God, what's happening to me? What's happening to me? What's happening to me? And ever since then, I've been on the verge of that kind of feeling most days if I, don't eat. But then when I could somewhat nearly burp last like summer, autumn, that kind of went away. So I didn't have, because I could eat a bit more. And even though I was uncomfortable most of the time, I could still eat at least a bit more than normal. And then the throat Botox wore off and what have you. And this throat Botox isn't doing so well. So I'm kind of back to feeling faint like most of the time, or feeling just unwell, like shaky. It's like a blood pressure drop basically. I went to Center Parcs with Tom's sister. It was like a very, very impromptu trip in June, I think it was. It was only a couple of weeks after I had throat Botox. Honestly, I probably shouldn't have gone, but I really wanted to like help Tom's sister out, and otherwise she'd have to go by herself kind of thing. And I was just like, look, I'll try and do what I can. I made her aware that I've just had throat Botox. It's a miserable existence, because another thing, when I do get throat Botox, it really fucks with my throat. Like, my throat is basically Botoxed open, so I take in way more air. I actually end up feeling worse before I start to feel better, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's basically the first 6 weeks after throat Botox, it's not fun. But anyway, I was just like, I'm just going to do it. I'm probably not going to be able to do much, but I'm going to come. Got there on the Monday and I tried to eat and just like work all around what we were doing. We were there from a Monday to a Friday. On the Thursday, I felt like I was going to freaking faint. I did not feel well at all. But it was weird because I had been eating. So I was like, this is weird. It's not to do with the fact that I'm hungry. So I was like, this is kind of weird because I have been eating. Because on the Thursday we went out for breakfast, we had pancakes, come back, and I was just like, I don't feel good. I feel like I'm gonna faint. I do not feel nice at all. After a few hours it kind of passed, and then on the Friday, which is when we come home, we had breakfast, like a sausage sarnie, like a pretty decent breakfast. Come home, Tom had to go to work, and I was just sitting on the sofa and I all of a sudden felt awful. The roughest I've ever felt in my whole entire life. Like, worse than I felt when I had COVID, which was freaking awful. Let me tell you, like, having COVID was not fun for me. And I felt crap, like literally like garbage. And I was on the verge of fainting basically for hours and hours and hours. And it was like my blood pressure had completely tanked. I have a blood pressure cuff at home because I've suspected it's something to do with my blood pressure for the longest time. And my blood pressure, it was normal for most people. And I was just laying on the sofa for hours and hours and hours. I could not move. And it's the first time in my whole entire life where I was very, very close to ringing, 111 or an ambulance or something. And I think I felt like this for around about 8 hours. And then when I woke up the next day, I still felt like absolute garbage, but better. I didn't feel like I was going to be on the verge of fainting. I just felt awful. So then I booked a doctor's appointment because I was like, this is not right. Oh, also, while I'm here, I keep forgetting about this. If you watch my tattoo tour, I talked about the fact that I had this very suspicious looking mole on one of my tattoos when I went to the doctor for the feeling of, feeling like I'm going to pass out. I got him to look at this mole and he got this magnifying glass out. It was like, yeah, that looks fine to me. But I'm 100% going to keep my eye on it to see if it changes or anything like that. So I will be checking on it very regularly. But yeah, I go to the doctor, he checks out my mole, and I tell him that I have suspicions that my blood pressure isn't right, and I had been taking a note of my blood pressure anytime I felt unwell. But my blood pressure is normal for the average person. But for me, when I felt like crap, it was lower for me. But he was like, no, your blood pressure seems fine. I wouldn't worry about it too much. But he signed me up to do a blood test and an ECG just to see if there's anything happening. So the ECG was a couple of days afterwards. I go to the doctor. They strap me up to this machine thing. And I honestly didn't think much would come out of this ECG because I have never really had any heart issues. The only thing I do have is heart palpitations quite often. But I've had those for like the whole of my life. So I thought it was just something to do with me. That's just the way I am. And I truly thought nothing's going to come of this. I'm never going to hear anything. Because they tell you if you don't hear anything, it's all good. But if you hear from us, then obviously there's something that we need to look at. At 8 p.m. that evening, I get a phone call from my doctor being like, how are you feeling when we did this ECG? And I was like, I felt fine. Like, compared to how I sometimes feel, I felt normal for me. And he was like, okay, and you definitely don't, because when I had this appointment, he was asking me questions like, do you drink caffeine? You know, do you drink a lot of alcohol and all of this? And I don't drink caffeine. Caffeine makes me feel really, really weird. So I don't drink energy drinks or coffee or tea or anything like that. So I was like, no, I don't drink caffeine. I barely ever drink alcohol. I had my first alcoholic drink when I was in Centre Parks. I had a cocktail for the first time in like a year or so. I don't remember. It was like, so when you like walk and stuff, do you feel any pain in your chest, or like, do you have any issues or anything? And I'm like, no, I can move about and walk about fine. And that was like stressing me out a bit. I was like, oh my god, like, should I feel unwell? Is there something really, really wrong with me? Like, what's happening? And then he said on your ECG there was some irregularities, and I was like, oh, okay. So he's like, I'm going to refer you to a specialist. I'm still waiting for this specialist referral to come through. I mean, the NHS is obviously backed up something chronic, so it'll probably be a little while until I get an appointment with a cardiologist. It'll be a while until I get an appointment with a cardiologist, but he did say he's not too worried, but he wants me to be checked out basically. And then after that phone call, I started to notice all these things that I've never noticed before with my body. So if I'm sitting down for a long time and I get up, my heart starts racing, and I don't know if it's because I'm hyper aware of everything now, but either that's been happening for a long time or it hasn't, I don't know. But yeah, if I sit down for a while and get up, I mean, I've always been that person that, you know, when I lay down for a long time and I stand up, I feel like dizzy and I get a head rush. Or if I crouch down for a little bit, you know, I'm looking in the bottom cupboard in my kitchen, I stand up, I get like head rush. But I've always been like that, so I didn't think much of it. And many years ago when I had a blood test, it come back that I was anemic. I had an iron deficiency. So I always thought, oh, it's just because I'm anemic, right? But I had a blood test last week, I think it was, which was... Oh, I know I'm tattooed. I know, honey. I know I have tattoos, but blood tests are fucking awful, okay? They are awful. I don't want to have a blood test ever again if it's possible, because they like, I can't even talk about it. Talking about it makes me want to faint. I had a blood test and they come back with the results, and I'm not anemic or deficient in iron anymore, but I am deficient in folate, which is B9, in the B9 vitamin, which basically means I have to now take prenatal vitamins. Tom's like, yeah, that's it. Take your pregnancy vitamins. I'm not pregnant. No, thank you. But a lot of the symptoms of B9 deficiency kind of line up with what I've been feeling lately. So yeah, I have to take these prenatal vitamins for 3 months. And then I guess I will contact the doctor again and see if I have to have another blood test to see if that's improved my levels for B9. So that's basically where I'm at with my life right now. I'm in limbo for everything that's happening with my body. I hate this whole being stuck in limbo thing as well, because I'm just like, okay, well, when am I seeing a cardiologist? When am I gonna have this operation thing to have the Botox in my throat? Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Did I mention this? No, I don't think I did. But the whole thing with the throat Botox, like if this way doesn't work for me either, you know, the higher dose, I think there's only so much Botox you can inject into one muscle as well. So there is a limit to that, and if that doesn't work, that's option 2 exhausted. Option 3 is brutal, but basically the ENT specialist will cut into the muscle that doesn't work and either like cut away at the bits that are kind of getting in the way or not working properly, or they'll cut a hole in it to make more room for air to come out. Not many people do it. There's only been a handful of stories I've read about people that have had this procedure because they've exhausted all the other options. The recovery just does not. It's like weeks where you're on a liquid diet, can barely speak. I need to speak to do my job. You know, I'm self-employed. If I don't upload a video, I don't make money. And obviously I can pre-film beforehand, but then what happens if something goes wrong? You know, all of this like worry and anxiety is just plaguing me so much. But I'm trying so hard not to think about it, because I'm just like, hopefully the higher dose of Botox will be the winning thing for me. Again, hopefully I can get to have this throat Botox operation pretty soon, but because it wasn't too long ago that I already had throat Botox, it was May, I think you have to wait around about 12 weeks for it to come out of your system. So it wouldn't be until end of September time until I could probably have the operation anyway. And then obviously if this throat, oh, there's a nice little throat gurgle for you. Oh, here we go. I'm not feeling great. And it's because I've been talking. Imagine living in a world where talking brings you misery. Which is my job. Yeah, every time I film, by the way, I'm just letting it all out now. I have to go lay down afterwards. Like, oh god, it's not fun. But yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to have this operation thingy until end of September, maybe early October, depending on, you know, when the ENT has time free. But basically for me, as soon as possible would be best. I'll obviously keep you all updated on everything, and I also kind of want to make these types of videos more so for like awareness of RCPD, at least, because not many people know about it, and the more people that know about it and know how miserable of a condition it is, the better. And just in hopes that it makes people more aware of just how horrible it is, because when you tell people you can't burp, people think you're just being a special snowflake and being like a lady. Oh, you can't burp, I'll stop being a lady, everybody burps. That kind of, no, like, trust me, I wish I could. I really wish I could. It's one of those conditions where unless you go through it yourself, you'll never be able to fully grasp just how horrible it is. And yeah, I still feel like most people still don't fully grasp it and just how awful it is, you know? Like, obviously people see me suffer all the time with it, but I still don't think they fully grasp and understand. I honestly just feel like people think I'm like being dramatic or whatever, but like, trust me, I want my life back more than anything. Not to get like deep or anything, but I would do anything to be able to just function like a normal human. And all of this is obviously affecting my mental health way more than I let it onto as well, because, you know, I'm stuck indoors all the freaking time. You know, and I used to be someone that likes to go out and do things. It's just frustrating. The most annoying thing about this whole thing is just frustration. I'm so freaking frustrated all the time. I'm just like, for fuck's sake, man, can I not just have one? I'm asking for one day where I don't feel like garbage. One day, just one day. I just would like one day, please, very soon, where I don't feel like garbage. And yeah, most days I fight the urge to lay in bed all day and do nothing. The only times that I kind of do, you know, get up and get dressed and all of that is when I have to film, which is a couple times a week. Or, you know, when I go and get my nails done. Or if, you know, I go food shopping or whatever. And then, yeah, I'll see Yasmin every now and then. That's about it. Otherwise, I'm just like moping around, watching Real Housewives. Oh god, if I didn't have Real Housewives, I mean, what would I be doing? Sorry for this whole doom and gloom. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, do talk about stuff that you feel comfortable talking about. Vent it all out. I'm here to listen. I understand more than anybody how frustrating and annoying feeling unwell all day, every day is like. So yeah, you can vent to me, and I'm sure there's other people in the comment section that can relate in some way, which freaking sucks. I don't want anyone to be miserable all day every day. Oh, here we go. Oh, just the one. Oh, that was very generous of you. So yeah, all I can ask is for you all to bear with me while I'm going through this journey. Again, this isn't going to affect my channel too much, to be honest with you, because again, I'm just in limbo. I've been in limbo for a long time. Even when I had the throat Botox, it was still kind of like, ugh, is this actually ever going to fully work? So yeah, I do try my best to upload as regularly as I most possibly can, but there's obviously days where it's just like either mentally I'm just not with it, or physically I'm just like, oh my god, I'm suffering, I'm dying. And I also just want to say thank you so much for being here. I say this in most of my videos. I'm always like, thank you for being here. I appreciate you all, but I like truly mean it. Making content isn't just a job for me. You know, it is. This is how I make money, but having like this little community of people is basically what keeps me going. Honestly, it's the only thing that freaking keeps me going. And I will never ever take it for granted. Never. I still to this day wake up and I'm like, dang, like this is my job. Like, I'm so freaking lucky. Yeah, I'll just never take it for granted. I will always I always check in on myself to make sure I'm humble enough and not out of touch with reality. Again, I'm not like a huge deal. I'm not a massive content creator when it comes to like subscribers or being famous or anything like that, you know. but I always make sure that, you know, I haven't detached myself from reality like a lot of content creators end up doing. So yeah, I'm just very lucky to have you all here. That's what I'm saying. I honestly, quite physically, need to go lay down now. My throat is, ugh, so much air in there. It's awful. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever had the feeling of their, like, esophagus being stretched out, but that's what mine's doing right now. It happens, like, all the time because there's air just sitting in here and it stretches out your esophagus. And I think when I get the throat Botox operation thing, they have to put like a camera in your throat, and I'm kind of intrigued to see how much my esophagus has been stretched out, because that's one of the things that happen when you have RCPD. Your esophagus gets stretched out from all the air, and the comparison of someone with RCPD to someone that doesn't, the size difference is insane. I've seen so many pictures of it on this Reddit page that is literally a lifeline for me. It's called No Burp, and there's just loads of people that have the same condition as me that's on there, like asking for advice and just talking about the condition. And yeah, I've seen pictures on there of people's esophaguses. Oh my god, it's insane. It's insane what this condition can do to you, because obviously I'm always bloated, obviously, because there's so much air in me, and like I dread to think what my insides look like. Anyway, I need to stop talking now. I've been here for too long. So yeah, I'm gonna go lay down. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me, and until my next video, goodbye.